Fighting the Frizzies at 11. Yeah, that just tells you how much I love Christmas. I mean, I love Christmas so much I made that really obscure reference that you probably didn't get. But if you did get it, then Santa's going to bring you lots of gifts this year. But yeah, you're probably wondering why I added a shit ton more decorations for my studio and for my videos. Well, I do tend to celebrate Christmas a little bit too early in November. But when it's officially the Christmas season, that is in December. That's when I officially consider it to be the Christmas season, and when I can start, going all out and really decorating for Christmas, and really getting excited for Christmas. So, that's why I added and, kept a few things from before in, where I do my videos. Hell, I even added this little tree in my own homemade Christmas decoration. But the Legend of Korra fans are going nuts for that thing right now. But we're not here to talk about that thing. We're here to talk about Disney's A Christmas Carol, which is the film I'm going to be reviewing today. Why? Because it's St. Patrick's Day. Because it's Christmas, you morons. I mean, look at all this. It's Christmas, so of course I'm going to be reviewing one of the all-time Christmas classics, A Christmas Carol. But before we talk about A Christmas Carol, let's talk about A Christmas Carol. Confusing, but shut up. A Christmas Carol was a novel published back in 1843 by author Charles Dickens. The story is about an old man named Ebenezer Scrooge. He's a very heartless and cold old man who absolutely despises the Christmas holiday. But that all changes on one night, Christmas Eve of all nights, when Ebenezer is visited by his old business mentor, Jacob Marley. Jacob is there to inform Ebenezer Scrooge that he'll be visited by 3 ghosts on that night. The ghost of Christmas past, the ghost of Christmas present, and the ghost of Christmas yet to come. Or Ghost of Christmas Future, as many like to say, but I call them Ghost of Future Yet to Come, Ghost of Christmas Yet to Come. So, yeah, just because it's a little bit more faithful to the actual book. But that's pretty much the story of A Christmas Carol, and since its inception, it has been one of the all-time most celebrated Christmas classics of all time. And also, as proof to that, it's become one of the most adapted anything ever. It's been adapted a number of times over that I don't even remember how many they made. But there's been many adaptations of A Christmas Carol, both in plays, films, cartoons, etc. Pretty much in every single form of media, Christmas Carol has been adapted. That there's just so many that everyone tends to like. Everyone tends to have their favorite Christmas Carol, everyone tends to have their least favorite Christmas Carol, but today I'm going to be reviewing one that doesn't really seem to be either. A lot of people like this one, and a lot of people hate this one, and yet no one really talks about it. That's the reason why I picked this one today, because not really a whole lot of people talk about this, and I figured everyone already talked about Mickey's Christmas Carol and the Muppets Christmas Carol, that I wanted to focus on one that not really a whole lot of people tend to remember. So that's why today I'm going to be reviewing Disney's A Christmas Carol, released in 2009 and starring Jim Carrey. So let's get started. Now, this one, like I said, not really a whole lot of people like, and not a whole lot of people really, hate. But it's good in my opinion. It's not my favorite Christmas Carol adaptation. That would have to go to either Mickey's Christmas Carol or one of the many other adaptations, but it's probably one of my favorites. Just consider like a top 10 spot or something, or, even, before the top 10 spot. But it's a good film. I at least think, in my opinion. Now, there is one thing that I really do not like about this movie, which I'm just going to get into right from the beginning, is the motion capturing. And I just want to tell you guys, I hate motion capturing. Now, I don't hate it as a tool to make movies. I do think it's a good tool, and I do think that it can be used in many different ways than this, and I do believe it has been used in many different ways than this. Movies like The Crow or Tron Legacy are great examples of motion capturing effects that I think should be used more than they are in this movie. I think that motion capturing effect should be used to make an actor look, younger, like say 20 years younger, like in Tron Legacy. And it also can be used if, say, an actor dies and they need to make the actor's face go onto a body double, like in The Crow. I think if it's used like that, then it's a perfectly fine tool of making movies. But when it's made like this, to be made both in an animated movie, I think it's just ridiculous and really contradictive of its own self. I mean, a lot of people say that they like motion capturing animated films. And if you do, I'm not at all saying that you shouldn't. It's your opinion. But a lot of people say that they like motion capturing animated films like The Polar Express and Christmas Carol because the animation looks realistic. I'm going to repeat that again. People like the animation of motion capturing effects because it looks like realistic animation. If you just listen to what I just said, that has to be one of the biggest oxymorons you've probably ever heard. The whole point of animation, either 3D or 2D or whatever, is to not be realistic. Cartoons are made to do the things that aren't realistic. So why make it realistic? That's just the thing I never understood about motion capturing effects, is they want to make the animation look realistic, then why do it in animated form? If you want to make it look realistic, why not just use real actors in real sets and real props? When you do it with, motion capturing effects, it makes it look cartoony and CG and just doesn't look right. I mean, they look more like puppets than actual animated characters. If you wanted to use it, if you wanted to do animation, why didn't you just make it animated? Or if you wanted to make it look realistic, why didn't you just use real actors again? Just doesn't really make any sense at all. I understand that they want to make animation where the actors can actually act instead of the animators doing all of the acting for the character that they're creating. But again, just use real actors if you want actors to act. Leave animated characters to animators instead of to the actual people. Again, I do think that motion capturing effects can be used in certain ways, like again, Tron Legacy, The Crow, and how even Avatar, I think, had a good reason for doing it. But having it here be the entire animated, having it be the whole world and all the characters, just doesn't seem right. I understand if they want to use it to make a character look old, again, like I mentioned before, or either older or younger, which they did do here, making Jim Carrey look older to be Ebenezer Scrooge. But then again, why didn't you just use makeup in a live-action movie? Or better yet, an actual older actor? Just makes more sense. I just don't like motion capturing effects at all. I didn't like it in The Polar Express, I don't like it here, and I didn't like it in Mars Needs Moms. And that's the thing about Robert Zemeckis that I really don't like. I like his movies. I really, really do. Back to the Future, Forrest Gump. These are two of my favorite movies of all time that he has made. Why can't he just get out of this motion capturing business, which he has, just make actual live action movies that are really, really good? I just hate motion capturing. I think it's a really useless way of making animated movies, because it just seems dumb. I really want it to be used in different ways from here on out. It has been used from many different ways since this movie's release, but I just want it to be used in a lot more different ways than making the actual live-action actors look like cartoons, because it's just, again, completely contradictive of its own self. I just hate motion capturing, and that's about enough that I can go on for about it. It's just stupid, and it's useless, and it's pointless. Well, not pointless, I think it can be used, but just not really all that necessary for a movie like this. It really comes off as if they really wanted to do every single version of A Christmas Carol and every single version of film, animation, or whatever, that they just decided, hey, we haven't done a motion capturing Christmas Carol yet, so let's make a motion capturing Christmas Carol adaptation. It doesn't make any sense. It's just, I hate motion capturing, and if you do too, please let me know, because I just find it to be really useless when it's used in this format. And then we get to a complaint that I really don't share about this movie, but a lot of other people do, which is that the movie is too dark, or the movie is too scary. I do think it is too scary for little kids, and I can definitely back this up because I was actually supposed to see this movie way back in 2009 when it was first released. But I never got the chance to do that because my little sister was scared shitless of the TV promos and trailers that this movie showed, so we didn't end up going to see the movie back in 2009. I didn't see this movie until last year for Christmas of 2012. That's why I'm reviewing it for you guys. So if you do have little kids that, like really little kids, like I think 7 or below, or maybe 8 or below, or maybe even more than that, definitely do not show this movie to them because there are a lot of scary moments. In fact, if I had watched this movie when I was a really little kid, if it had existed when I was a really, really little kid, I probably would have been really, really scared, and this movie probably would have scarred me. But as as a 14-year-old, as a person with a more, mature perspective on the film, it really isn't all that dark, or at least actually in better words, I respect and I really don't mind the darkness of the movie and a lot of the scary dark moments because that's what the book was. The book wasn't really a Christmas, a Christmas special or, a Christmas story. I mean, it was. I mean, it's called A Christmas Carol. But it was really a dark, scary horror story that just so happened to be placed around Christmas. That's what Dickens intended when he was writing A Christmas Carol. So, really, I don't mind the dark moments in this movie and the really scary moments because, well, that's what the original book was intended to do. And that's what the original book is. It has a lot of dark, scary moments in it. I think the real problem here isn't that the film is dark and scary. It's that, well, they put Disney in the title of this movie. I think if they had taken Disney out of the title of this movie and released it under Disney's Touchstone Pictures and not in Walt Disney Animation, I think it would have worked out way better. I mean, that's what they did with A Nightmare Before Christmas, and everyone loves that movie. So I think if they had gone in that direction, I don't really think you would have too many people complaining about the dark and scary moments in this movie. Especially because this is again, motion capturing, so it looks more for, adults. And if they had released it again under Touchstone Pictures, I think they wouldn't be too many of those complaints. So, yeah, I think if they had gone that route, it would have been a little bit more of a smarter idea. And if they had I don't really think that the movie's too dark or scary. I just think the problem is that they put Disney in the title when this should not have been a Disney movie. Especially how dark this is. So, that's all I have to say about that. I don't mind the darkness in the movie. I think that a lot of kids' movies should have some dark moments. Don't think it should all be, happy, whatever. It just makes you appreciate more all of the happy and, Christmas-y moments in the movie, especially towards the end, when Scrooge is very happy and now he loves celebrating Christmas with everyone that he now, loves. So it makes you appreciate those moments more. So I like dark moments, and I don't really mind them at all. Now we get to the big thing about this movie, which is Ebenezer Scrooge. Oh, Jim Carrey playing Ebenezer Scrooge, or Ebenezer Scrooge played by, Jim Carrey. And I want to say this, and I really want to stress this. I like Jim Carrey. I really like Jim Carrey. He's probably one of my favorite actors of all time, and he's an actor that I just respect the hell out of. But I said this in my Batman Forever review, and I'll say it again here. Almost every single role he is in, he's not really playing a character, he's just playing Jim Carrey. Movies where this is most prominent are The Mask, Ace Ventura, Pet Detective, Liar Liar, Dumb and Dumber, and many, many more that I can't really name off the top of my head. I like Jim Carrey as an actor because he tries his hardest in every single movie. I mean, you can just tell in any movie he's in, especially this one, that he's just trying his hardest to please the audience. And he's just trying his hardest. And he's putting so much effort into every single role. But it's a role that he plays all the time. I think the only two movies I've seen where he was actually playing a character instead of just Jim Carrey again was in The Truman Show as Truman Burbank and Kick-Ass 2 as Colonel Stars and Stripes. Those were the only two movies I've seen from Jim Carrey where he was actually playing a character instead of just Jim Carrey again. And not to say I hate Dumb and Dumber and I hate Jim Carrey in those, other movies where he's just playing Jim Carrey. Not at all. If you're going to be playing a role constantly in a movie, the same role as the last movie, make it a good role. I said this in my Deck the Halls reviews, and I'll say it again here. If you're gonna play the exact same role in every single movie, make it a good role. And that's what Jim Carrey definitely does. He brings something a little bit new, even though it's the same role that he's playing. But in this movie, I really like this because he's not really playing Jim Carrey in certain scenes. And those are when Ebenezer Scrooge is a very cold and heartless man. Because when you really get that character description, it doesn't really sound like a Jim Carrey character. I mean, when you say you're going to be playing a heartless and cold, evil man, do you really think Jim Carrey? If you do, please get help. But you don't really think Jim Carrey. So I think the reason why I like Jim Carrey as Ebenezer Scrooge in this movie is because it doesn't seem like a Jim Carrey role or a role that Jim Carrey would be playing. The only scenes where it felt like, okay, this is just turned into a Jim Carrey playing Jim Carrey movie is at the end where he's jumping around and really happy about Christmas. But that's just a character of Ebenezer Scrooge, so, whatever. I'm pretty sure he was like that in many other adaptations, so it's not really a big fault here by Jim Carrey himself. Again, I love Jim Carrey as an actor. He's one of my all-time favorite actors. He puts so much effort into every single one of his roles that you can't help but just loving the guy. and every single role he plays is just absolutely hilarious. But, you know, it's the same role almost in every single movie, but this is one of those exceptions. He is a really, really good in this movie. Very cold and heartless man, and I really like him in this movie. I really, really like him in this movie. So that's all I have to say about Jim Carrey as an actor and Jim Carrey in this movie. That's really all I have to say about the movie. It's that simple. I also love the score in this movie, which is done by Alan Silvestri, or Silvestri. Silvestri, I'm going to go with. If I mispronounce it, I apologize. But the score in this movie is absolutely amazing, as usual, by Alan Silvestri. He also did the soundtrack for The Avengers, which was also really badass, so that's why I have to mention them here. So he did a great job with the score. The music just sounds really, really great. I didn't like the motion capturing. I didn't like that, but I did like a lot of other elements in this. I thought Jim Carrey did show a lot of emotion in this movie, which is, again, something that Jim Carrey doesn't really show in a whole lot of his movies, which is, emotion other than being wacky and crazy and whatever. So I thought he showed a lot of emotion here, especially in the scene where he's face-to-face with Bob Cratchit. After Bob Cratchit, a little bit of a spoiler alert, but, Christmas Carol's been around for so many years that it's kind of hard to find this as a spoiler alert or whatever. But when, Bob Cratchit loses his son, Tiny Tim, or Timothy, and, Ebenezer Scrooge is face-to-face with him right there, you can see all the just sadness just draining out of him. And that's at least where I think he decides to turn over a new leaf and be, a new happy man. I just love that scene. That's a great scene in this movie. Personally, my favorite scene. Probably a lot of other people's favorite scene. But this movie, I thought, was decent. I don't think it's the best Christmas Carol adaptation. I think that would probably be like Mickey's A Christmas Carol or maybe The Muppet Christmas Carol. But this one was, decent. It was very decent. So that's why I'm going to give it a decent rating of a 7. I think I'm going to go with like a 6.5 out of 10. It's a decent movie, so I'm going to give it that decent rating. It's 6.5 out of 10. I thought it was alright. I don't think it's one of the ones that I would absolutely recommend to everybody, but if you are one of the, many people that like a Christmas Carol completist and you want to see every single adaptation, then yeah, I would check this out. But I would definitely, recommend another Christmas Carol adaptation, but I still would recommend this one if you've seen many of the other ones out there and, you want to watch a different Christmas Carol adaptation. And really talking about these movies, it isn't a matter of talking about the plot or the characters because, we've all seen it a million times. You really kind of have to just talk about, did the actors play the roles good? Was it a faithful adaptation? You really kind of have to talk about it in that. In that sense, all the actors did great, and it was a faithful adaptation, at least to me. I thought it was good. It was a good movie. It was a decent film. I think I would recommend it to some, but I would probably recommend the better adaptations over it. Not to say that this is a horrible adaptation. It still is a good adaptation. Just, not an amazing adaptation. It was good. So that's why I'm going to give it a 6.5 out of 10. I thought it was good, and, I would say check it out. If you have seen all of the other, really great Christmas Carol adaptations. So that about does it, and next week I'll be reviewing another Disney Christmas film. Yeah. I think I'm getting a cold here. No pun intended. So that's all I have to say about that. Next week I'll be reviewing Iron Man 3. So I'll see you guys then, and take care, and have a very Merry Christmas. Even though it's not even close to being Christmas yet. Whatever, I'll see you guys next week. Bye.